The Finance Committee, oops, I'll wait. Now I will call to order the Finance Committee for Tuesday, February 26th. And roll call, Alder Galvin.
Here.
Alder Dorf here, Alder Kopstacks here, Alder Kathy LaFave here. Okay. All right. I will entertain a motion for approval of the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Okay. Motion
Second.
by Alder LaFave, second by Alder Galvin. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Approval of the minutes. Motion to approve. Okay. Oh, motion by Alder Kopstacks, second by Alder Galvin. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Regular business. Item 1. Resolution authorizing transfer of 2019 budgeted revenues and expenses between accounts. Staff.
Okay, we had something similar to this at the last meeting. Again, through state statute, if you present a budget at a certain level and then you decide to change it after the budget is approved, you have to go through and get a council approval. The main reason we're doing this is Triangle Sports Area has always been a separate division. Now that they are part of this, that park is part of the city's parks, we've decided to make that division go away and just put it underneath Park and Rec division.
That makes
So
sense.
basically, that's why you're seeing basically all the 640s go away. I see there's a couple other changes. Do you want to talk through a little more details of what it is? Really, it's no dollars have changed, total budget exactly the same. It's just moving into categories and line items. So that is how we're going to track actual starting in 2019. Has no impact. State statute says though if you approved it at the council level at a certain level, we have to, if we're making any amendment to it, we have to bring it in front of you. It is absolutely a complete wash, and it's just moving it into more appropriate divisions.
Any discussion?
No, I don't see that.
Okay. I'll entertain a
Motion
motion.
approved?
Second. Motion approved by Alder Galvin, second by Alder Kopstacks. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Item 2, consideration with possible action, the request from Chief David Litton to approve an intergovernmental agreement between the City of Green Bay Metro Fire Department and the Bellevue Fire Department.
Can I interject here?
Yeah?
I was asked by another alder to delay this till our next scheduled meeting. He was talking to some people today, getting some information about this, and he was wondering if we would be willing to hold it for, what is it, 2 weeks?
Would it be all right to hear about what
Sure.
exactly the agenda item involves?
Right, I
before
just
we do
wanted to put that out there
Yeah.
before we got into too much of the nuts and bolts.
Sure. I just like to hear maybe from
Yep, I'm going to defer to the chief to explain
Chief, come on up and,
the agreement, how it came about,
yeah,
the plan, what the
what's
intent
what's
is.
involved
Right.
in it with it? I'd like to find out.
Well, I think you have the agreement before you. And if you don't, then let me know and we'll get a copy in front of you. But essentially, we were approached by Bellevue Fire to see if we could assist them in the area of vehicle maintenance. They've had some ongoing issues with their private shop that they use, and they've had long delays in repairs and things of that nature. And so they approached us about seeing if our emergency vehicle technicians that are certified would be able to help them in those areas with diagnostics, quick repairs, and things of that nature. So as a result of that, we kind of worked through this agreement. It's stipulated in there the kind of things that our shop would be doing only, if and only, they have time available to do so. It's not create in any way, shape, or form, any delay in our maintenance routine or otherwise in our emergency repairs of our fleet. Obviously, we would not let that happen. And the rates that are indicated in there are inclusive of not only their salaries, but all their benefits. And so the rate is actually higher than, the rate in the contract here is higher. In other words, we'll
Get a little pop.
get a little bit of money out of it for a revenue stream. I don't expect that in any given year that this will generate more than $10,000 in revenue, if that. We're not talking about a regular occurrence, we're talking about emergency situations that arise for them and so forth. This has absolutely nothing to do with emergency operations, with us, with fire or EMS or anything else. This is strictly our maintenance shop. I did not hear from any other alders about question about this at all. So
Was that Alder that spoke aware was just about a maintenance agreement?
I'll be honest with you, I didn't go into too much depth with him because I didn't have much time to get on the phone with him.
Okay.
But he said he had a meeting today, that he was meeting with some interested parties in this. They had some concerns. Now, I know the PD has done work for UWGB, Pulaski PD, a number of other, and I don't know what kind of maintenance work,
Okay.
helping set their squad cars up, because they do so many here, it's much easier for them to just take. So I don't know, and, I mean, this seems pretty simple to me, but if he's got some concerns, I mean, we could agree on it here, but then it'd get pulled to council, and I don't know.
I would ask that you approve it tonight, let it be pulled at council, let him discuss it there.
Okay.
I would like that.
Bellevue they have some things that they're waiting on us to kind of work through for them
Okay,
Yeah.
in the very near term.
all right, I'll let him know.
And I don't have any issue with that, I mean, I'll be there to explain.
Right,
at
and,
council.
yeah, I don't mind at all pulling it at council.
Okay.
This is
Yeah.
this is not an agreement like we have with Alloway, where we are actually providing fire and EMS coverage for the village of
No,
Alloway.
yeah.
This is strictly to do with our maintenance shop.
Okay,
If, and only if, our maintenance shop has time to do it.
right, this would never run into overtime or anything else like that?
If it does run into overtime, the rate stipulated in here is overtime rate is above and beyond what we
Okay.
pay, including their benefits.
All right.
I always think collaboration anyway with, other outside groups is really good.
Mhm.
It's good for the whole community to, and before our budget meeting, I sat with Chief Litton and we had talked too that something maybe we need to talk about down the road is a regional fire department.
Well, someday
for
we will.
outlay, because it'll help with, everybody
Sure.
with their funding.
Sure.
And,
Okay.
it helps.
Another step. So you could explain to the elder that we have no problem with him bringing that up.
And having it
And,
pulled?
yeah, having it pulled.
All right.
Just to
have it talk
facilitate
with
things, we can move
I'll,
forward.
I'll suggest that he give you a call and sit down with you.
Yeah.
That would be
Right, oh,
very
yeah,
nice.
right.
All right.
Yeah,
Great.
anytime, I'm available.
Sure.
So,
Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Any other questions or discussion?
Nope.
I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve?
Second. Move to approve by Alder Galvin, second by Alder LaFave. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, item 3. Consideration and possible actions for the request to move forward with the City Hall elevator modernization and to secure a funding source. Staff.
In this case, I'm going to defer to our Director of Parks, who is also responsible for City Hall
elevators,
maintenance. We
that's-
also have Director of Public Works here who also works on the bids. So I think we'll start with Director Dan.
Okay.
Also, quick caveat,
Excuse me?
a caveat.
Sure.
I think, yes, the elevators do need to be modernized, because I got caught in it.
When?
Oh, that was a couple months ago.
Oh,
It wouldn't
yeah.
move.
Yeah, so, I want to start out first with some of the reasons why we're requesting the funding before we actually start to talk about how much funding we need.
Okay.
So this is a fairly large dollar amount that we're talking. So I understand why there's a concern, with coming up with the money to replace the elevator. So I'm just giving you the information so that you can make an informed decision. So for the elevators, typically elevators like ours last approximately 30 to 40 years is the lifespan. Ours are over 60 years old, and they are original to the building. So the current and also previous maintenance, elevator maintenance companies that we work with on an annual basis, they've told us that not only are the parts hard to come by for the elevator repairs, but also the people who are familiar with the technology behind them are all retiring, so the know-how is going away along with the equipment. So approximately 2 to 3 years ago, we did have one elevator that broke down for several weeks.
Yep.
And that was because the elevator could not find the parts to repair the elevator. So they had to actually fabricate the part locally. They couldn't find it anywhere. So luckily, we really haven't had the situation happen where both elevators are down very often at the same time. But if that ever does happen, we have no ADA accommodations to get either staff or the general public to any of the floors above the first level. So really what this is kind of preventative, because at some point we will have a catastrophic failure. I can't predict when that's going to happen, but the elevators are old. It will happen at some point. And if it happens when it's not planned for, it could be down for several months, not several weeks.
Yeah.
By the time we find funding to do it, by the time we go through the bidding process to hire a contractor and order the parts with the lead time and then actually do the work, it'll be quite a bit of time, which, that would cause quite a bit of havoc in kind of our meetings and just the operations of City Hall. So what we're looking at for dollars here is back in, I think it was 2016 or 17, we did bond $430,000 towards this elevator project. So that was based on a suggested maintenance repair from an elevator company. So one of the ones we've worked with in the past, they gave us that dollar amount to work with. Now what we found out when we put the specifications together to put this out to bid is that really wasn't all inclusive. So that was kind of their idea of the work that needed to be done. It wasn't an all-inclusive list. So DPW did publicly bid out this project last year. It came in considerably over budget. So what we decided to do at the time was to not award the bid. I don't even think that was discussed at council, but our decision at a staff level was to just kind of restructure the bid, change it a little bit to try and get the price reduced a little bit in the next rebid. So Public Works did rebid the project out, and bid opening was January 15th. And it was about $130,000 to $150,000 less than last year's bid. So it was successful in bringing the bid numbers down, but it still is considerably higher than our budget. So right now, the base bid, we had one bidder that bid on the project, and their base bid came in at $833,595. There are 3 alternates, which Public Works is recommending we award all 3 alternates at this time. And we can talk to you about what those alternates are if you have questions. But then Public Works is also requesting that we include an $80,000 contingency above and beyond the base bid and the alternates. We don't really know what we're going to find when we start dismantling the elevators. If something comes up, it's nice to have a little extra money just in case to handle those change orders that might come up. So like I said, we originally bonded $430,000. We spent about $15,000 in engineering. So we have about $415,000 left, which means we would have to come up with an additional $570,000 if we were to award the bid with the 3 alternates and the contingency. Now, at the park committee meeting 2 weeks ago, we did present our 2019 capital improvements plan to the park committee. And because City Hall is considered a park and recreation division, we did include the $570,000 in our bond request for 2019. At the park committee, because this is, the funding is actually decided by your committee and the city council, it was referred to you for further discussion. So.
Any discussion?
Sure.
Okay.
What did we
Mr. Shelby?
change from the first bid to the second bid that saved us over $100,000?
Well, Steve could probably answer that better than I.
The original bid that we put out last year, the hardware that controls the operation of the elevator, the controllers themselves, we wanted a proprietary controller so it was consistent with elevators across the city. When you start dealing with these types of systems, you don't really want to mix and match systems if you don't have to. You want to get one system, standardized on it, so that our maintenance staff and our vendors, there's redundancy in parts, we can minimize inventory. Overall, from a system-wide perspective, it makes for a more efficient and lower cost operating system. That was part of the problem that we were told by the vendors who were bidding on the project was different manufacturers. Obviously, as a municipality bound by public bidding statutes, I can't pick an Otis elevator, I can't pick a Schindler elevator. We have to put a proposal out that multiple vendors, multiple manufacturers can bid on, and each one of them has their own proprietary controllers. So Otis won't even license their controller to operate a Schindler car, okay? We got that feedback. There was 2 things, the controller and the timing of the contract. We had a pretty compressed time frame, and we actually bid it out at kind of a weird time of the year. So we opened the bid window up, gave the contractors more time to take a look at it and bid it, and then we took that requirement for the proprietary controller out because we were simply told either you're going to get really high bids or we're not gonna bid it at all. So we took that out and, as Dan indicated, we got about $150,000 lower bid this time out. It's still not where we would have liked it, but what we're finding is
We don't
elevators
have
are
the system that
expensive.
we wanted, is that it?
What's that?
Because we don't have the system that we wanted, or?
Well,
Price-wise?
no,
it's
the
not
price-wise,
what
it's still not where we had hoped it to come in. This is a bigger number than we were expecting based on our recent experience. But there's not as many folks out there who are doing this kind of work. The workforce, Dan indicated that with older technology elevators, we're starting to lose that expertise, but there's also just the sheer number of contractors doing this type of work. They're not out there. Those who are doing more private work. So, your metros or, okay, where they can work for a private entity and there's higher profit margins, they're simply not taking, there isn't enough public sector work out there to keep them interested. So, in our opinion, Public Works opinion, we don't think you're going to see better bidding conditions than what we have. We've done everything that we can to get the best price, so we're recommending moving forward as it was left.
Okay, what kind of elevator do we have right now?
I believe these are Otis's.
I think they are.
Okay, are we rebuilding the engine, putting in a new engine, buying a whole new car?
We're keeping the chassis
Okay,
and throwing everything else away.
okay.
Okay? The cars themselves will be refurbished, but the operating system, the counterweights, the guide rails, the controllers, we're basically keeping the cars because the cars fit in the shaft.
Sure, that's,
Yeah, that's a
Okay?
good thing, yeah.
But everything that operates the cars is coming out and being replaced.
But even with the cars, we are doing some cosmetic fixes.
Right.
So one of the alternates for $30,000 was to replace all of the doors on all of the levels with new doors. So they'll look like new cars, but they're in essence the same ones.
and that kind of segues into my next one. Why didn't we include our alternate 1, 2, and 3 in the original bid? Or ask for, these things in with that original bid? Or is this something that came up after the fact?
I think
or-
it was something that came up after the fact in an attempt to try to, we put a bid out for, here's the scope of work.
Sure.
When it came back expensive, we wanted to put it in as alternates so that we could say, based on the price, is this something that, is this a want or is this a need?
Okay.
And unfortunately, even though we structured it that way, they're all needs.
Even the doors are needs?
Yeah.
Okay. We're gonna get new music in there? Just ask.
We're gonna get music in there?
Right. No, I just want them to work. I don't want to be stuck in one.
All right.
The other thing I wanted to mention is, the bids can only be held for 60 days, and the
Okay.
bids were open on January 15th.
So we're under a little time.
So, to a certain extent, what we are asking for is, we're asking to put the cart in front of the horse. At some point in the not-too-distant future, Wednesday night, Public Works is gonna bring our capital improvement program for 2019 in front of the Improvement and Service Committee. And what we expect to hear from INS is a recommendation to approve, modify, what have you, our CIP. And the second part of that recommendation usually is and forward on to the Finance Committee a request for bonding. So I think we're the last ones to come through. Once we do that, then Finance Department will have the opportunity to put the 2019 bond request in front of you. And what we're asking for tonight is, will you carve out the 500 and some $1,000? Make that commitment that before you fund anything else, you're guaranteeing that 500 and some thousand we need for the elevators is part of the bond request that gets approved. Because quite honestly, that probably is the most important project that's in the bond request this year, because it directly involves the ADA requirements for this building, and as a city government, we have to provide that to our residents.
Okay.
Not just that, like I said, what happened to me, before, that you don't want people stuck in there.
Well,
Depending upon who they are.
I found out how to, I found out to push another button and it didn't fit. It wouldn't go to second, didn't want to go there.
I've had these discussions with various people, and I've also stated, I am 51 years old, and I have mobility limitation issues that date back to my 20s. So, not all the time, but there are days
yeah.
where physically I cannot take the
Well-
steps, and I need those elevators.
Okay. Well, we have to,
I've
ADA
asked them,
requirements, we
yeah.
just have to do
Here's,
this.
here's my question, and this is part of what we've been, as a finance committee and as new alders, this new alder group that we have, is our finances, as it pertains to budgeting and now bonding. And
Yeah.
we budget, and whatever we don't budget, we want to bond. And we're getting concerned about the amount of bonding, we're concerned about our budgeting process, capital improvement plans, you're looking, are we looking 10 years, down the road, are we looking 5 years, are we looking 20? I mean, these bonds are 30 years, are we looking 30 years down the road?
Not always.
Right,
That's one of the nice things, is with the bonding, we can set the bond terms to be consistent with what we're bonding for, and that's something that the finance director has been very good about doing over the last several years, is re-looking, taking a second look at how we do our bonding. As Dan indicated, an elevator lifespan is anticipated to be 30 years. Now, maybe on this one, because we're doing a rehab, it's gonna be mostly new, but not 100% new. Maybe we look at a 20-year bond instead, and that'll help reduce some of those bond payments on an annual basis. What I look at when I'm meeting with Diana to talk about our bonding needs, I don't necessarily look at, to me, it's not, if you can't budget for it, you bond for it. Okay, there are certain things that are more appropriate in your operating budget, and there are certain things that are more appropriately handled through bonding.
Right.
When I look at my bonding needs, I look at my debt service payment. So it's a combination of the term of bond, the interest rate you're paying on the bond, and the principal amount of the bond.
right.
If I can hold my debt service payment, whatever debt I'm retiring in 2019, if my debt service payment for my new debt is equivalent, then I'm cost neutral to the budget, because it doesn't increase or decrease the impact to the operating budget.
Right.
Write that down, young people.
But what I would like to see in the future, moving forward with Green Bay, is that we're spending roughly 17 million a year to maintain our bonding, to pay it off. I'd like to see us start slowly, because of good planning, budgeting, and everything else, reducing the amount of our bond, thus reducing the amount of our bond payment. I mean, I know of communities who do not bond for anything. They have no debt. And I understand that that's not something we can leap into. It's something you have to work your way towards.
Okay?
And then there's a lot of ways to get at that, and we don't have that source. I understand that. But I guess my push would be, as we move forward over the next several years, what I would like to see is we develop a plan on how do we reduce the amount of bonding that we hold every year. So as we reduce it, we're not, like you said, offsetting it so it's even, and I like that, that's good. But I like us to do even better, where we pay off bonding and we're not taking out as much the next year.
I'm sure Diana will correct me if I'm too far off base, but one thing to keep in mind, just as general, and for me to use a rule of thumb, okay, I hope you understand what a leap I'm making, I don't do that. But if you want to look at a rule of thumb, $1 million worth of bonding is about a penny on the levy. So $1 million worth of bonding is 1 penny worth of debt, your debt service is a penny on the levy.
Sure.
The equivalent in operating budget is about $58,000. So if you want to offset $17 million worth of bonding, that's 17 cents worth of levy capacity you gain back, which is going to be substantially less than $1 million. I think $1 million at 58,000 comes out to like, I don't remember, if it's 43 or 63 cents.
50 cents, yes.
63 cents. So $1 million worth of operational budget is 63 cents on the levy versus 1 cent in debt service. If we can get rid of $63 million worth of bonding, we can have the same impact as $1 million worth of operating budget. That's where the challenge is going to lie.
And the challenge is, I mean, what could we do if we didn't have any bonding and we had $17 million more in our budget right now? What could you do with your?
But the challenge that we're going to run into is on expenditure restraint and levy limits.
Yes.
We can't raise the levy that high.
Yeah,
I know.
absolutely. And I understand all that, but I think our city needs to start looking towards these
Yes.
down the road type ideas.
Yep.
And I also want to say, I do appreciate bonding. It's kind of like having a mortgage.
That's
for
exactly
your
what it
home.
is.
Oh.
And so you can't buy the home all at once, so you spread the payments out. And to bond for a short-term item over 20 years, that's not smart. You know, if the item's gonna be done within 5 years. But for the long term, like
Right.
you bond for your mortgage for your home, if we can keep it flat, that is great, I think. And then we're not raising taxes because you retire the debt and then new debt comes on and you try to keep that flat. I can't conceive of a city that doesn't bond, but
Right.
I wouldn't expect that of us, I guess. I have to say
There's
that's
some
my
out there, but,
opinion.
and there's some though that are raising their monies through things like TIFs. They've been more invested in TIFs than we have been in the past, and those TIFs are
Well,
paying
so
off.
That's not always good.
I
to
mean,
pay tips
right,
either.
it's not always the
So-
answer, but I mean, there's things that we need to be more cognizant of, I think.
I think.
We need to learn more about Diane, we're gonna have to, you know, lean on you guys to teach us. But I just think there's areas that we really need to be aware of. Like, my follow-up question is, does this $570,000 affect capital improvement for the park, for other plans that you might have had on the back burner?
What we've been doing with City Hall versus Park Department projects is we view them independently. You know, at one time DPW kind of managed City Hall. When that was switched over to Parks, we didn't want to take away, or the approach that was taken is we didn't want City Hall to take away from other park projects.
Right.
So, you know, we have our park capital improvement plan and we have our City Hall capital improvement plan.
But does it factor into the overall
It has to.
bond issue for the city? Absolutely, and that's something that we all try to work collectively on. So, you know, I'm really looking at my bonding needs this year.
Right.
I've got Webster.
Well, I've had some long talks with Tony Fieser the last few days, and he's been kind of educating me on graders and plows and repairs and how old they are, and the fact that
That's
we
budget.
but we rent and lease some, and I mean, this all factors in, and if you're gonna replace a grader, I think you're bonding for that, aren't you?
Nope,
$400,000?
nope.
You
That's
budget
it.
for that?
That's my operating budget.
All right,
So last year, when we entertained the budget in October and November, the first $1.2 million that I sacrificed out of my budget was in my city equipment usage fund. That, every time a piece of steel rolls out the door, I charge myself X number of dollars for that piece of equipment. That money comes out of the operating budget and goes into my 203 account, which I then use to buy. That's essentially
sure.
a depreciation schedule, if you will.
Yep.
Okay? And that money rolls over, so about $1.2 million a year goes into my equipment replacement fund. Now, garbage trucks are $265,000 a piece, and they have about an 8-year lifespan. So I replaced 2 a year because I got 16 frontline trucks. And this year, I got 0.
Now it's Alder LaFave's turn to ask a question.
No, I just got a statement. I do appreciate too, Alder Galvin, bonding. We don't always, want to just bond. We have to be, really look at why we're bonding
Yep.
and what we're going to bond for. And sometimes it does make sense, like companies. They borrow a lot of times because it's cheaper for them to borrow than to spend their own money because rates are low, So we have to look at some of that too. What is the interest rate you think we would get?
But
I can't really answer. Last year, we were just south of 3%. I really don't know. We haven't even gone out to look at interest rates yet. We haven't gone down that far. We did get a 2-point,
Well,
I apologize, you're right, Baird, the Department
projection.
of Public Works uses an interest rate plus to put out on for their special assessment billing. Did he come in at
we,
2.8?
275
Yep.
is
So-
what we're estimating at this point in time, but we won't know until we actually.
And that would be for about a
And-
20-year bond.
Yeah.
And we don't know, like if we wait in the future, they've been talking to feds about raising these
Raising it,
interest rates too. So it's something too you gotta look at, it's good maybe to do it right now instead of waiting because you don't know down the road what your rates could even double, who knows? You don't know the future on some of
Mhm.
that, so,
All right, any
this
further discussion?
this is almost like a need.
Yes.
A real need.
Can I add just one little bullet point, and it's absolutely true what Alder Galvin has said, that we have $17 million in our budget. Just want to remind people that of that 17 million, about almost over 9 million of them has other funding sources. So about 9 million is on your general levy, which
Sure.
is paid by taxes. The other ones are paid by TIFs, parking utilities, and Bay Beach and some other funding sources. So
Okay.
a little bit of clarification when we're looking at bonding for general levy
Sure.
versus ones that we have funding sources.
Okay, that's,
Okay.
And then, just to reiterate too, what we're looking for, and Steve mentioned this, so what we're looking for is your commitment to bond for this if you're interested in doing that, no matter what happens with the rest of the bond request
Understood.
for the year, so that Steve can go ahead and award the contract and move ahead with it.
It's, I mean, whatever we do still has to be approved by council, right?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
Well,
Any other questions?
unless we're gonna put a porta potty in those things and some food and water, I think we ought to approve it.
All right.
I don't-
Was that a motion? Did I hear
That's a motion.
All right, motion by Alder Galvin to approve. Is there a second? A second. Okay, second by Alder LaFave. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And just to explain to the studio audience here, this next item, we're going to probably go into closed session, and then you have to leave the room. What's left after that is only going to be, this number is the contingency, which you have on the agenda I gave you, and when the next meeting will be held. So you basically are going to be done, unless you don't want to go back to the dorm or whatever. All right. Item number 4. Consideration with possible action on COGB versus Acting Midwest Regional Director, BIA, docket numbers IBIA 19003, IBIA 19013, and IBIA 19014.
And I'm going to refer this over to our attorney.
These are pending cases, and since they are in litigation, I recommend going to closed session to discuss strategy regarding them.
Okay.
I'll make a motion.
Second, motion by Alder Galvin, go to closed session. Second. Second by Alder Dax. Would like to read, I will read, the committee may convene in closed session pursuant to section 19.85, paren 1G, Wisconsin statutes for the purpose of conferring with legal counsel for the governmental body who is rendering oral or written advice concerning strategy to be adopted by the body with respect to litigation in which it is or is likely to become involved. The committee may thereafter reconvene in open session pursuant to section 19852 Wisconsin statutes to report the results of the closed session and consider the balance of the agenda. So all those in favor of going to closed session? I didn't do that yet, did I?
Yeah.
I did? Did I do that?
no.
No, all those in favor of going to closed
Right. Oh,
session?
that
Right, you-
part, yeah.
yeah, correct.
Say
Aye.
aye. Okay, opposed, motion carries. We are now in closed session. Motion to go back into.
Do we have to wait for everyone to get back in here?
I
don't think so.
I think
Okay.
we're
Motion to
left.
go back in
I'll make a motion.
open
There you go.
session.
Okay.
I'll second.
Well, motion by Alder Corpus Dax, second by Alder Galvin. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion carries.
That was
All right.
turned back on?
We are, yep, it was. Okay. We're back into open session, regular order of business, and Alder Galvin, would you like to make a
Yep.
motion?
I'll make a motion that staff proceed as directed during the closed session.
Second.
Okay. Motion by Alder Galvin, second by Alder Corpus Dax. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Informational?
We started with 112,076 for the beginning of the year for the 2019 budget. We haven't used a contingency at this point yet.
Okay.
That's good.
And the next Finance Committee meeting will be on Tuesday, March 12th at 4:30 PM. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Alder Corpus Dax, second by Alder LaFave. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned.